there's something magical going on in the blockchain world. You know that. They just launched an EOS blockchain. The mainnet just came live about a few days ago. Apparently, a couple of the whales just did the 15% vote. It's active now. So it's quite an exciting time to be. So I was there, hosting one of the events, and we had Professor Mohammed Yunus, the Nobel laureate, one of the singers, MIA. So it was quite an exciting time. So I just got delayed a little bit, but really excited to be here. Thank you so much for Imperial College TEDx for giving me this opportunity. The talk I'm going to be touching on today is rebuilding trust in a post-world trust. What do I mean by that? Who can we trust today, right? In this world, who can we trust today? For some of us, it's not so very extreme. When it comes to trust, it's very basic. It's something from the day we were born. We have our parents to trust. We have our society to trust. And everything we get involved, we have some kind of trust that we have a constant feedback from the environment. For me, the way I wanted to look at trust, it's something more deeper. As I was traveling from home today on the train, on the Evening Standard, there was a headline, you are losing trust in the context of Brexit. Right? Everywhere you look, there's this massive erosion of trust. And then, recently, if you look at the Facebook scandal, Cambridge Analytica, and then the Me Too movement, and then you've got the Black Lives Matter, everything, there's this common thread that underpins, and there's that erosion of trust. For me, I wanted to talk about from my personal life story, and I wanted to somehow leave a message here in a way there is a trust that we can all fall into when things seem so impossible. So this is my father and my sister in October 1991. So I'm from Sri Lanka. That's me in the right next to my father. That was me about 11 years old. As you know, in Sri Lanka, there was a 30-year civil war. There was a lot happened. There were about 100,000 people got killed. In 2009, the war came to an end. So as I was a child, even though there was this chaos of warfare going around you, you don't notice it. It's something that your environment still feels very normal. Your day-to-day life is very normal. You go to school, you come back, you go to the paddy field, you're playing around. You go to temple in the morning, you come back. It's just very normal. And you have all your friends and you play, and you probably see a couple of shells just dropping by and you just pretend, okay, it's fine. It wasn't your turn to die today, right? Or, in the middle of the night, you'll get shells just keep on dropping literally 100 meters away, and you just literally need to wake up, blindly run so that you can save yourself. And then an hour later, they stop bombing, you come back and sleep, and you go to school next day. So that's what life was. But even within this chaos, you kind of trust within your environment. It's okay. There is a bigger force that's kind of protecting you and your environment. And then you carry on with your life as normal. So what happens is that one day, I was studying in a junior school, and my brother, he was 17 years old, he was studying in a senior school. Guerrilla warfare, randomly this shootings and gunfire breaks out. At one of those instances, gunfire broke out, and we were told from our parents, our trusted sources, whenever you hear gunfire, just run to a church or a temple or a mosque, stay there until everything just stops. And then we'll come and find you, right? One of those moments, the gunfire breaks out, my brother runs, and I run, and he dies in my arm. That was 1989. So if you think about the environments like that, it's very tough, right? But you have to trust the environment. Then my father finds out that there was something happened within close to the school. Then he makes the way there, and the military, because you can imagine the environment is very chaos. Then what happens is they take the body and they put them into a truck, and they take them back to the camp. Then my father comes in, asks me, "Where's your brother?" I say, "They take him back to the camp." Then he turns up to the camp, and they say, "Can you release the body?" And they say, "No, we can't release the body." And just because the environment, how it was at that time, when you're surrounded by war, they kind of locked him up for 3 months. And after 3 months, you can imagine, as a family, waiting for your father to come back, being locked up. You don't know what's going on. You're waiting. You're trusting the community. You're trusting the environment to kind of take care of you. So that was the image that after 4 months, there was a Red Cross went into the camp, and they saw my father in a very bad state, and they kind of did some negotiations, and went back and forth, and randomly one night we saw, one evening we saw a Red Cross van came towards our house, and the whole community just running towards to see what it is. We didn't know what was happening. So that was my sister and my father. That was the image that appeared in one of the magazines. And that's the kind of the overall image. That's me on the right and my brother on the left. And that's kind of like the neighborhood, you know, the people. Just to give you a little sense of what it is, right? So from that moment, as you can see, like my father's, you can't see one of the hands, probably on one of the images, you can see all the abuses, you know, all the kind of tied, you know, string hand marks, and you can see the kind of the nature of the beard, you know, how long he's been inside, right? So that's what the environment was. I was 11 years old. Still, I haven't, so look, the way to think about it is when something like that happened in your hand, something like that happened very close to you, your brother being dying, there's two ways to think about that life. Either you go very extreme, you go towards hate, or either you just somehow, you just put the hope in love, right? Somehow you try to find some kind of inspiration. But then having said that, but I'm only 11 years old, it's very difficult to see both extremes. Because even when we are matured, I'm having through 30 years of my life now, still I find it very difficult in certain situations to either look through love or through, you know, hope. So at 11, and 3 months later, my father decided that, you know what, you guys need to get out of the country. So he decided that I'm going to send you first. So I was the last in the family. I didn't have a mother, so you can imagine. So it's just my father, and we had like 3 brothers and a sister. So he decided that I must go first. At that time, I was about 11 and a half, 12 years old. There was 2 choices, right? You would expect, you know, when a father decides, because a lot of parents in that environment, they don't even have the choice. They don't even have the financial means or kind of opportunity to even have that thought. You know what? Can I get my son out of the country, right? And my father, even though we weren't that financially wealthy, but he decided that I must get protect my children. So he decided that he must send me first. Those days, I was from north of Sri Lanka. So going from north of Sri Lanka to south of Sri Lanka, you can imagine this is the height of the war. Military everywhere, landmines everywhere, bunkers everywhere. You can't cross from north to south. The other one is, we were close to the South India, so the other way is to get a boat and leave. So the time that we were deciding which route to take, whether to go through India and then get a passport from India and then get to London or somewhere in Europe, or just somehow take a risk, go through all the jungles, landmines and the camps, somehow manage to make it to Colombo and then get a fake passport and then get out of the country. So there's 2 alternatives. So that night, I remember we went to bed thinking, okay, you know, I'm very young, I'm hearing all the elders talking around me. And next morning I saw the whole community, those people there, they're running towards the ocean shores. And then as a child, you know, you're always curious, you know, why people are wailing, crying and running towards the shore. And I ran, and then as a child, you can imagine I was this height, and I'm holding on to someone, looking into the water in a hope that something is, maybe it's magical or something just to look into. But we saw a couple of babies floating around, right? Then we come back, you absorb that, and you come back and you kind of listen, you're young, you're listening to elders talking, and you find out that on the previous night, there were people who were traveling to India trying to cross, but the military or the Navy must have patrolled, and the smugglers must have asked the kids to get them into the ocean, because if they make any noise, either you had to decide whether all die or just we get rid of the children. So they were the choices they made. At that point, my father decided we're going to take you into the flight route. So then we decided there's a lot of hardship you go through. We managed to get to Colombo. We found a smuggler. We paid some money. Managed to survive a few days without military kind of coming into your hotel and taking you away. We kind of hid away in Colombo for a while, and then we managed to get to the airport. Right? Airport wasn't in. This was in 1990. Airport wasn't like a normal. You know, you walk in, pass your passport check, and there's a lot of military and there's a lot of chaos, paranoia because of the war. Right? So I remember I was sitting there with this, ready to go, and my father just told me a story. He told me, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to see you for a long period of time, but whatever you do from here, make sure that you go and become something. So he told me a story in Tamil, which I'm going to translate. He said, you know, whatever you do from here, try to become like a tree. Imagine 12-year-old sitting, you know, seeing military everywhere with the guns, and the smuggler sitting here, you just met a few days ago. You're sitting with a fake passport as a child, and that guy is my father. And I got my real father behind me. He's telling me a story, whatever you do from here, go out there and try to become like a tree. And I'm thinking, what do you mean, Daddy? What is a tree? I've got so many things in my mind. And he said, imagine in Asian countries, when you're in a tree, men used to do this. They used to come and they look for a little wood and they try to urinate. He said, just imagine that you're a big tree and someone do that and you get very upset by it. And you say, you know what? I'm not going to grow into a beautiful tree. I'm not going to grow. I'm just going to be stubborn and not grow into this beautiful, leaves and the fruits that I'm blessed with. Instead, I'm going to stay like this tree. Instead, if you forgive that same person and grow into this beautiful leaves and trees, the same person, when it rains or storm, he'll come under the same tree and say, what a beautiful tree. It's giving me shadow when I need it. Right? That's what life is. Go out there and make something. When you make something of yourself, that's when only you can become useful for something or someone in the environment. That's how my journey started. And then I was in my mind, thought I would be ending up in London. But this guy took me to Nairobi. So I'm 12 years old, landed in Nairobi. I was there for 1 year. 1 year later, again, they were looking for a mother figure for me. Found a mother figure and another passport, and managed to get to London. This agent dropped me in the airport, London Heathrow, and said, find your way. He said, go and hide in the toilet for 3 hours so that they don't know where you came from. And then walk towards immigration. So that's how my life started. So I walked towards the immigration, they took me in, they gave me a little blanket, then there's some places to live. At this time I was 13 and a half, 14 years old. So that's how my life started in London. One of the things, I remember when I was little, I was a very smart kid. For me, I thought I was a smart kid. When you're young, you just feel this, this thing, you're unshakable, that feeling. Because, your environment is, you trust everything around you. You have this kind of environment, your parents you can trust. When you're struggling, you can reach out to your sister or your brother, You feel this, you have this force around you. I remember one of the teachers, he told me these things, Kieran, dreams are universal, opportunity is not. Whether you're a kid or you're born in Sri Lanka in this village, look around you, there's a lot of poverty around, there's war. Or whether you're a kid, you're born in Kensington or in Chelsea, the dreams of the kid is the same. It's just the opportunity of that kid is different, right? And I remember another teacher said, Kieran, I can see that you're very smart, you're working really hard, but you can see there's a lot of things going on in your life, but don't get distracted by it. You see a lot of your friends and a lot of the people that you hang around with, they're disappearing in the middle of the night, and next day you see them with guns, even though they're very young, but don't get, deluded by it. So one of the things he told me is make sure you always your face towards the sun. Let the shadows fall behind you. That's one of the quotes from one of my favorite teachers in Sri Lanka. And the teacher I've recently been working very closely with is Professor Mohammed Yunus. I've been working with him for the last 5 years very closely, but I've known him for a very, very long time. One of the things that he says is, all of us here, or all of us in the world, every child is the seed of the tallest tree. What lacks is the soil base. So what the society does is that, just imagine yourself as we are all the seed of the tallest tree, and somebody give you a small pot of soil. And you put that seed into the small pot, but it will grow into this cute little tree. And everyone will just name it, wow, what a cute little tree. Oh, Kieran is a smart kid. But if you'd given a bigger soil base, just bigger soil base, it would have grown to this big tree. And again, you'll say, wow, that kid is even bigger. Wow, he's smarter. There's nothing wrong with the seed. We're all the seed of the tallest tree. It's just the soil base that we provide is inadequate. Right? For me, those three things stuck with me throughout my journey in my life, from the day my brother was shot to landing in London alone at the age of 14 with little shorts and like a small money in my pocket, walking towards the immigration lonely. Those three things stuck with me. And so for me, that's how my life started. Right? So somehow I put trust in people. When I was in Sri Lanka and I reached London, that's how my life started. Then they put me in a place in Walthamstow. It was in E17. Imagine just being 14 years old, not being able to speak the language. You got 1 year to pass like 12 GCSE. If you fail those, forget going to good university, getting a degree. And forget, forget even just waking up in the morning and someone telling you, look, get out of bed, go to school, you need to study, forget all that. You don't have all of that privilege, right? Somehow you have to motivate yourself. Somehow you walk into a school and say, you know what, I want to start studying, and that's how you start school. So I went to school, I did my GCSE, did okay, did my A-level, did okay, then ended up in Imperial, I did my Ph.D. then I decided that I want to go into banking. So that's how so I started at Barclays Capital. I went to Singapore. I was in Hong Kong. Then I moved to New York with Morgan Stanley. I was running their global macro structuring. Then I moved to HSBC. I was looking after the hedge fund sales business. So that's my banking since 2002. That's my 16 years of banking career. But all this time, I have this emotional attachment with Imperial. So I've been coming back to Imperial, being lecturing it. Now I'm part of the business school. I'm on the advisory board, and also we're trying to launch a few things. So that's my association with my academia world. So somehow, all of these things while you're going through, from Sri Lanka at the age of 11 to getting to London at the age of 14 years old, there was a lot of trust. That was the trust that from my environment, my childhood trust, right? My teachers, my friends, my family. Then you come to London, then you put trust in the system, right? You trust in the system of the country, the immigration system, the education system, or the mentors that comes in your life, in a hope that they will, somehow that you create this trust. And you hope that somehow your dream is the same as the dream of the kid in Chelsea or in wherever it is, and somehow you'll get there. So that's how I felt, until recently, about 5 years ago, I started this organization called Uinspire. So Uinspire is a global social enterprise whom I work with all these people and a lot more. The mission of that Uinspire is to inspire the people around the world. So one of the things that I learned in my journey, in my life, it's all about having, like I said, we all the seed of the tallest tree, but you have to believe in yourself, right? That's very important. But how do we create that soil base, right? We can all say this in a way that, okay, fine, we are all the tallest tree in the world, but how do we create that soil base? So through Uinspire, about 18 months ago, I was sitting in this hotel and I thought, I want to do something, and I want to be able to think of a way that I can create this soil base. I said, okay, what is a better place than to start in Sri Lanka? So I was sitting there thinking, I'm going to build a school where I can create an environment where we can take children and kids from underprivileged or orphans or widows and put them into the center and somehow create this kind of light, like a sun that they can walk towards, or kind of like a soil base that they can feel that they can expand in a constant basis. So we created this organization called Uinspire Digital Academy, where we are teaching blockchain, AI, AR, VR, cutting edge, emerging technology. On top of that, we are teaching all the soft skills that I learned that's also necessary, in order to succeed in this world. So we have that organization, and I come across, Professor Yunus, and he's a big ambassador in this space. He's a big social enterprise, and also you got Malala, you got Leila Jana. She's quite huge in this space, in the social impact investing. And the MIA, she's a very good friend of mine. She's a Sri Lankan singer. Again, she's managed to get out of her environment and managed to make something out of her life. So this is the Digital Academy in Sri Lanka. So when I decided that I wanted to build a Uinspire Digital Academy in Sri Lanka, I haven't been to Sri Lanka in 27 years. I don't even know how it looks. I said, I need to do this. So I called up some builders from the building and I said, look, I need a little building. So they said, okay, fine, we have this building which you're working on, why don't you have it? So took that over. And then start putting things in. I had this kind of mind, what I wanted to create. I wanted to create this soil-based, right, kind of various environment that people can come in. Then I just decided, how can I find someone, I don't even know how Sri Lanka looks. I know how Sri Lanka looks, but this particular part of Sri Lanka, the north, I don't know how it looks. So I just wanted to find someone who can run this, someone who has the same vision. And one day I was sitting in a cafe and I was talking to the dean of the business school here. And there's an email popped up. That's because someone was talking to someone and they mentioned my name and he dropped me an email saying that, Kieran, I'm doing this amazing thing in Sri Lanka. I see you're doing some amazing stuff and I'd like to work on it. Quickly hang up the phone and I called this guy and I said, hey dude, I think you're doing an amazing job. I think you'll be right for something that I'm working on at the moment. And that's how it all started. I trusted that guy, and then he found me the person that was running this, now running the Digital Academy. She's 5'2", looking after 30 kids on a day-to-day basis, full-time. Went around the whole, north, filtered students. It's just amazing. So it's just that, with that little trust of that email, with that trust of that guy with his mind, we managed to just turn something. Now we are taking people from MIT, Stanford. So it's an amazing initiative. So this is some of the students. So among these people, some of them could be the orphans and widows' children, or the people that were working in paddy field. Suddenly you have an environment where people, they can come in and thrive. So these are some of the students that's working on that at the moment. So what am I doing now? And what have I learned? And what do I mean by trust? Right. So look, trust is, it's not trust is I trust you, you trust me. I think trust is something far more deeper than that. Trust is that when that guy called up, me having that connection with him, because you can feel that. You don't even need to say whether I trust you or you trust me. It's just that the kind of tone in the voice and the kind of the way he embraces you, the way we engage, the trust is already formed, right? So when I walked into the immigration, when they place me in a place, the trust is already formed. You can tell there's already the trust. When you're in Nairobi alone for 1 year, you're surrounded by, a very young age, 13 years old, you just see a lot of people coming and going, and you're locked up. All your mind is, when am I going to get out? There's already some kind of trust is there. You trust in the people around you, you trust in the environment to hope where you get it. So what I'm doing now in my life is that, so even though I've been in banking, been in the financial industry, I've seen a lot of crisis, financial crisis. Everything's around this erosion of trust, right? So now I'm in a place where I'm doing things that, so I can build an environment where the trust can be rebuilt, right? So as I mentioned in the beginning, we're working in this technology. It's called blockchain. Blockchain is a great place to be. It's a decentralized network. Again, I'm trusting in that technology to be able to deploy some things that I have passion for, whether it's education, whether it's kind of wealth, if you can distribute in a way that people have trust. We're building companies, for example, Credify, which is, again, built on blockchain. We're going to be disrupting the microfinance. Again, I'm putting trust on the technology to be able to scale it to people. Sports Ledger, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a wearables where we can distribute to African kid. That tied to my first quote, dreams are universal, opportunities not. If a kid in Nairobi, in a slum, can every day switch on a watch and being able to get the data of Ronaldo from the previous day, what he did in terms of exercise, the food he ate, and the kind of movements he done, then the kid you're giving a tool for him to emulate to. He doesn't need to be in Real Madrid to be Ronaldo. So his dream is the same. He wants to be Ronaldo, but you're providing the tool. So through Sports Ledger, that's what we're doing. We're going to provide wearables across all the poor kids or whatever, anyone in the world, but we want to make their dreams universal, and we want to make the opportunities universal as well. That's the Sports Ledger. And the Uinspire Digital Academy, again, like I said, we want to create this kind of education movement where people can come in so they can increase the soil base, right? Again, so one of the things that when I started my organization, Uinspire, it's the kind of tagline we had is your dreams, make them happen, right? But the underpinning behind that is all to do with the trust. In my life, I trusted in my system, I trusted in my environment to be where I am. It wasn't easy, being a kid, seeing death and war, somehow, trusting in the system and trusting in the people around me to leave and take the leap to get out of the country and end up in London and somehow manage to be where I am today. I haven't achieved a lot, but I think from where I'm going to achieve, where I'm going, I know I can see it's a beautiful place because everything that I'm building is built around the trust. I want to give the people the bigger soil base. I want to make the dreams, everyone's dreams are universal so that they can have the opportunities. I want everyone to, they are the seed of the tallest tree, and I want to provide the soil base. So what I suggest to you guys is trust in yourself. There will be a moment in your life you'll be shaken. There'll be a moment you'll see a lot of bad things happen around you. But don't give hope, but trust in the environment, trust in the universal energy, and somehow, trust me, the universe is bigger than us. And if you do the right thing, you'll end up there. But trust in yourself. Thank you.